Hello. Hi. I became a mother 10 months ago, and now I finally understand why all mothers say, do what I say because it's for your own good. But for a moment now, imagine that I'm your mother, the mother that we all share. If I were Mother Nature, what would I say to you, humanity? This is what I would say. I am Mother Nature. I have been here for 4.5 billion years, 22,500 times longer than you. I don't really need people, but people need me. Yes, your future depends on me. I have fed species greater than you, and I have starved species greater than you. Your actions will determine your fate, not mine. I am nature. I will go on. I am prepared to evolve. Are you? How would you answer that question? Later on, I promise to tell you what it actually sounds like when someone says no and yes. But more importantly, let me tell you what I think can help you decide, say, yes, I am prepared to help humanity evolve. Do this. Go experience the two futures now. What two futures? Let's make it simple. First, the future no one wants, where humanity suffers and risks our own survival. And two, the future we all want, where many more generations of people can live in peace and prosperity. But wait, I said go experience the futures now. Yes, I want you to build a time machine and take lots of drugs, mind-altering drugs. No time machines, and definitely no drugs. I'm a mother now, remember? Try this instead. First, look at the city you live in and pick the one environmental issue that worries you the most. So here in Taipei, is it air pollution that's making you sick? Okay. Then plan a vacation. Go to a place where the air pollution is much, much worse. Any ideas? Where? Shh. Go and breathe that foul, dark air until it chokes you with its dust. I'm serious. Go and take deep, long breaths until you feel really sick and really scared. And while you're there, take a moment to understand why it's so bad. Okay? Great work. Next, plan your second vacation. Go to a place where the air is perfectly clear and clean. Clear, pure and clear. Try New Zealand or Copenhagen. Stay and clean out your lungs. Stay until you will forever remember the joy of inhaling that pure, sweet air while you play outdoors all day long without a face mask. And same thing, spend some time to understand why they're succeeding. And when you eventually go home, I believe you will live a little differently. Maybe you'll take the subway more because it just makes you sick to see that smoke coming out of your car. Or maybe you'll help your company reduce air pollution in its manufacturing. Or you might even call me for a job one day so you can work for an NGO or a company that's becoming part of the solution. And you know what? You will do all those things not because environmentalists like me tell you you should. You will do them because it makes you sick not to do them. Because it makes you feel so good and so in control and so proud when you do contribute to the future you want. Do you see now? Your two possible futures are already here. You saw them on your two vacations. The now for one community is the possible future for someone else. Actually, someone much smarter than me said it like this. The future is already here. It's just not very evenly distributed. When William Gibson said this in 1992, he was talking about technology, how tech innovations like virtual reality were already in Silicon Valley, but were unevenly distributed in the world based on wealth and geography. So I only read about virtual reality in science fiction novels until this year when I experienced Conservation International's new virtual reality films. But if Gibson had invited me to Silicon Valley in 1992, I would have experienced my future 25 years sooner. So this is an example in terms of technology. What I propose is that we apply this thinking to humanity's possible futures in terms of our environmental and social challenges. So what's our future as a species look like? This is my favorite prediction to share. By 2030, humanity will need 30% more water, 40% more energy, and 50% more food. I like using this instead of statistics about deforestation or global temperature changes, because this one's about people. How we and our future generations will feel the pain if we don't start solving our environmental problems. It's actually our human problems, right? As we say in Conservation International, saving nature is about saving ourselves. So these figures are from the World Economic Forum, composed of the world's global and corporate leaders who are all getting very nervous about humanity's future in terms of resource competition and climate change. Well, maybe not all the world leaders. There seem to be some new ones that are a little confused about the meaning of climate change and leadership. But the leaders who aren't confused call this dilemma the food, energy, water nexus. Because the challenge before us is even greater if you consider that to produce water, we need energy. To produce energy, we need water. And to produce food, we need water and energy. So we are facing a future where not only do people need to compete with other people for resources, humanity is facing a future where we may have to decide between producing water or energy or food. And that's a future no one wants, right? So now you're all ready to start saving the world, right? Maybe some of you, I say maybe 5% of you. Even warnings like this sometimes aren't enough to get us to start living and acting differently. Why not? Well, first, the unfortunate problem with the future is that it's always in the future. So let's be honest. Every time we think about the future, our reaction is, great, I have time to procrastinate. So I've been saying I will start exercising next month for the last 10 years. And 2030 is in 13 years. So we say, I'll recycle my next plastic bottle. I'll drive more, or I'll drive less next month. Right? The second problem is that these predictions always look inevitable, like a fact. So a lot of people just give up. Some may start saving food in their secret hideaways. So we have to be really careful how we articulate predictions like this. One word changes everything. It's not humanity will need, it's humanity may need more water, energy, and food if we don't start living differently. Often when we say something will happen, right, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like if you say, I'm going to fail my exam tomorrow because I partied all night, you might prove yourself right. So this relates to my third reason why predictions like this often fail to motivate people. Imagine you're an Olympic athlete. What if your coach only showed you photos of failure like this? Okay, could help. But wouldn't it also help and maybe motivate you to train harder and win, to show you pictures like this? So, how do we make ourselves feel like the future's not so far away? How do we remember that we do have a choice? How do we visualize what success and failure look like? Go experience the two futures now. Remember your vacation number 1 and number 2? This approach worked for me and hundreds of people I've met in the past 15 years. See, 15 years ago, I was someone that would say, no, I'm not prepared to help humanity evolve. 15 years ago, no kidding, my focus and ambition was how to make the most amount of money in the shortest period of time. So I did the math and I joined a law firm. But after years of working 60+ hour weeks, I woke up one day and felt totally hollow, completely empty. I looked at my life and the world I grew up in, and something just felt wrong. But I didn't know what would feel right. Honestly, I did not know a single thing about environmental issues. So I quit my job, sold my house, and became an intern at the Solar Living Center, where I literally lived in a tent for 8 months. It changed my life. That was the first time I saw a different possible future for my life and for humanity. A future where we're connected again to the food we eat, because we grew it ourselves or bought it from local farmers, where we practice how to build with natural materials or green materials, where we taught other people how to install wind and solar energy, and where we had so much fun every day brainstorming how to fulfill our needs and luxuries without destroying nature. My most powerful experience during that time, actually, was my first visit to the local dump site with our interns. We were actually very excited to find treasures that, like old furniture that people had thrown away. But my excitement turned to a terrible awe when I walked into that dump site. It was the first time I was forced to see what happens after the garbage truck leaves my house. The first time I realized my trash doesn't magically disappear. I was sick to my stomach. The smell of the rotting, wasted food was overpowering. But even worse was all the plastic and metal I saw that wouldn't decompose for thousands of years, and so much of it could still be used. Before then, I never recycled. Now, when I don't recycle, I feel that exact same feeling of disgust and despair as when I stood at that dump site. But I've also seen so many beautiful possible futures. My most moving experience was at the Valdivia Coastal Reserve in Chile, along the beaches of the Pacific Ocean. Half of that forest had been lost to logging, but when the timber company went bankrupt, nature conservation NGOs like ours bought the land and turned it into a nature reserve. Within that forest, with trees more than 4,000 years old, was an ancient grove that had never been harmed by people. The hike leader asked us all to be silent as we walked in. I will never be able to describe in words what it felt like to stand in the embrace of those ancient trees. I can only tell you that I could not stop the tears from flowing down my face. You remember the sacred forests in the movie Avatar? It's not all fiction and history. Ancient sacred forests like that still remain on our planet. So at that moment, I decided I would have to spend many years of my life helping to protect those forests from becoming fiction or history. Because places like that can inspire the future for other people. I have many more stories to share, but I'm excited about the stories that you will collect on your journey. That journey is probably easier than you think. And I can tell you it will be 100 times more rewarding than you expect. First, decide you do want to help humanity evolve to the future we all want. Second, realize that those possible futures are already here, just someplace in the world. And then go find those examples, good and bad, so you can at least learn from them. But even better, go and experience them. Go so you can have a fully immersive, multi-sensory experience that leaves you totally unable to be passive any longer. I promised you earlier to tell you what it sounds like when someone says, "No, I'm not prepared to evolve." I know a woman, very lovely, smart, influential woman, who manages the wealth of some very successful families. She said to me, "I'm not worried about environmental problems. Our children will figure it out." Now let me tell you what it sounds like when someone says, "Yes, I am prepared to help humanity evolve." This is Ike. He's one of the heroes from my Environmental Heroes Leadership Program. At age 16, Ike started a student group called Project O2. They've now convinced 29 schools in Hong Kong to switch to recycled paper. The motto of Project O2, addressing the problems our generation has inherited. So that's the difference between no and yes. Our children will figure it out versus I will solve the problems I have inherited. Which sounds closer to how you feel? Are you a yes or a no? Are you a no that wants to transform to a yes, like I did? When will you go on your 2 vacations? And finally, especially for you students, remember, everyone says, our children are our future. That's you. But don't wait for the future. Start experiencing it now. Start creating it now. The famous designer and philosopher Buckminster Fuller said this: the best way to predict the future is to design it. There are a lot of people like me looking forward to working with you to design the future we all want. Thank you.